Hello, and welcome to today's CDCT live session. I'm your host, Jason Rader from Insight's Cloud and Data Center Transformation Division. Our topic today is on the ins and outs of managed services. And with me today are three really smart guys on this topic. We have Phil Okonski, Director of Insight's CDCT.
Oh, did we lose Jason?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Phil,
why don't you introduce yourself?
So I'm hello everyone. I'm Phil Okonski. I lead our managed services here in Cloud and Data Center Transformation. Stephen?
Yeah, Stephen Walters, Senior Manager responsible for strategy and offering development.
And Brandon Lemke, Managing Principal at CDCT Insight.
All right. Well, we'll sort of wing it here while Jason gets reconnected. But what we wanted to talk to you today is about managed services and what we're seeing from our clients and from our teammates around managed services. And what are the common challenges our clients are facing? Stephen, I know you lead our service catalog and portfolio. What are the typical conversations or challenges you're seeing from clients?
Yes, I think it's to highlight that. I think just to sort of contrast what we've seen in the marketplace going back years, and we've all been in this space for many years. So if you go back, 10, 15 years ago and compare that to where we are today, it's really unrecognizable, right, from what it used to be. And from what I've seen, if you go back, it used to be more around staff augmentation. It used to be around outsourcing elements of your IT services that really were kind of off there in the distance, right? So you would outsource pieces, and it was this distant team that was kind of running things for you, and it wasn't really an integrated experience. And from what I'm seeing and hearing in the marketplace and have experienced in recent years, it's a much more integrated experience. And some of the drivers that are there are not necessarily the same. So it may not always be about cost optimization or saving money. It actually could be about propelling the business forward in ways that are really, really hard to do internally, just building it yourself. An example that comes to mind, that a lot of customers talk about, things like a CMDB, a centralized configuration management database. Those things can be really hard to cultivate and build, but you can consume a managed service, and if that's part of that offering, you just sort of instantly get all the goodness that comes along with that. So seeing a lot of that in that space. Do you agree, Phil and Brandon, and kind of your experiences out there?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think as more and more clients are looking to consume a managed service or looking at a managed service, they're trying to find those integration points, right? Where can we integrate? Where can we take advantage of best practices and processes that a managed service provider can bring to the table, and then I can get that as part of the service as well. You mentioned CMDB and how hard it is to maintain those, right? And one, to build it, and then to maintain it. And I think a lot of the integrations that companies are able to do when consuming a managed service, it allows them to really start getting more governance, getting more identification of what's going on in the environment, right? Holistically, like between companies. So absolutely see a lot of value in today's world, especially things around ITIL, right? Where you've got a standard set of common language and processes and ways that your IT staff should be working within the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would add, to go along the integration path, what we see from a client experience really in the last few years really transformed. If you talk to a traditional managed services provider, if I'm a client, we talk to them and go, well, I used to have one or a small group of people that know my environment. They're very familiar with it. And they were the ones that owned it, whether it's the public cloud, the infrastructure, your network, whatever that is. And when they engage a managed services provider, there was this feeling of, gosh, I'm handing it off to a team of tens or hundreds of people. They don't know my environment. They look at a router or a switch or a server as a router or switcher and server, but don't have that context in the environment. And we're finding clients are seeking not only that 24/7 response that comes with scale and tens and hundreds of people, but also that intimacy of integration around being familiar with the client's environment and their business and what those specific units of the environment mean to the business. And then also having a partner that really owns the actual execution. That more and more of our clients are focused on trying to get away from day-to-day operations, and they need someone to just own it and run it and deliver those service levels and capabilities that they can't, they could do, but they, with the limited resources, maybe they shouldn't do. And that's been a very big shift in the marketplace in the last few years from my perspective.
And guys, that is perfect. You're pretty self-sufficient. Sorry, I got lost in the matrix there. But I think that's a perfect segue into, I think there's maybe, and Phil, you kind of alluded to it just a little bit, there's maybe this kind of, I'm not doing my job if I let an external entity manage a certain portion of it for me. And how are, you've kind of brought up a couple of things. How are you engaging with folks these days, especially with the different technology stacks that we've got to deal with? Not even to mention multiple public clouds or a multi-cloud environment. What are some of those challenges that you're helping folks with these days?
Well, and I'll let Stephen and Brandon add to this, but I would say you mentioned a lot of them. Clients are struggling with, a lot of private infrastructure, traditional type of infrastructure within the four walls, and then trying to absorb public cloud, hybrid cloud solutions. How do I get the skills to expand my capabilities? How do I build new processes around engaging or integrating my traditional services with external third-party partners, public or hybrid? And do I have the tooling to measure service levels, to correlate events, to track processes end to end? All of those challenges our clients are facing, and they've got to figure out, do I have to build all that? And that's a significant investment for some clients. I don't know. Stephen, what are you seeing?
I completely agree, Phil. I think that it's really a focus. Do you want to focus on building tool sets and integrations and processes and literally it's continual. It never ends. You never build the process and it's perfect and you put it on the shelf and move on, right? So it's continual. Is it reasonable for most organizations to invest in doing that? Or is it more reasonable to focus on strategy and improving the business and the bottom line, right? And I think that's really where, back to the integration component, that having a common language, having a common methodologies that we really didn't have 10, 15 years ago, wasn't common in the industry. Now it is. Those are kind of enabling new discussions to take place, new ways to communicate, new ways to integrate, which allow those organizations to then take advantage of the things that we're doing in the managed services space, like making our tools better, making our monitoring more efficient, turning down noise. Noise level is huge in IT, right? And we spend a lot of time doing that. And it again is something that is a huge value to bring, so the organizations don't have to, I'll just say, spend cycles continuously trying to eliminate this. We do it on a broader scale, and that's generally in the industry.
Yeah, that's, I'm the advocate for everybody, right? We are obviously, Insight has its own managed services, but just for folks who are kind of kicking the tires around just in general from a managed services perspective, again, that approach that I had earlier about, it doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. It actually could mean that you're absolutely in command of where you want to be from a maturity perspective, and that you let an organization that is very tuned to those operational aspects while you go after, a market that maybe is enabled by your folks being able to focus on that particular aspect. I mean, I think this is kind of a game changer, engaging managed services as opposed to just tapping out on something that you couldn't conquer, like 100% patch management or something along those lines.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of our clients are struggling with, do I invest in operations or do I invest my finite rare resources into innovation? And innovation typically means growing business revenue. It means, finding new services to deploy. It means, making sure you're compliant. There's a lot of different reasons why, people in the industry are starting to look at, I've got a subset of headcount that are going to be really good in knowing how my business works. Should I be focusing them on being a network person? Do I have the scale that I need that? Or should I, and watching the red, yellow, green lights operationally, or should I have them be more of an architect role? And how do I enable my network to enable a rapid remote workforce that we've all been having to deal with? And then let someone else deal with those operational components. You mentioned one thing, Jason, that innovation that we have to do as a business is inherent to us. We have to do innovation around operations to evolve and be relevant to our clients. And you just mentioned one thing around patch management. One of the things we're seeing specifically there is, it used to be patch management was, if I get 95, 98% of my servers patched, that's success. But we're seeing IT executives and business executives going, no, I need to be compliant. I not only need to be compliant with SOX and PCI, but I need to maybe be compliant with our clients and their contracts. And
Absolutely.
So, and compliance management is no longer 98% may not be sufficient. Just restarting a patch may not be sufficient. You need additional processes and tools and capabilities to get to compliance versus patching. And that's just one example we're seeing in the market of how IT operations is evolving, and trying to stay up with that, with the people, the processes, and tools is challenging.
No, I think
I
that's
think it's
really
also a
interesting.
great
Go ahead.
example of, Phil, where an organization can kind of leapfrog where they are today. So when you talk about compliance and patch management, right, that can be really difficult and time consuming to build a program around that would then be able to get you in compliance with the contracts the client has with their clients, right? And so consuming that as a service can move you from the starting line to you're well into a very mature process very, very, very quickly. So I think it's a great example of how a managed service in a certain space can move an organization quickly ahead. And it's not just, I'm just trying to get things off my plate, right? It actually is a real value to the business.
That was exactly what I was going to say, is that whole working on that maturity. Patch management's kind of down here from a maturity perspective. And then when you get to that, focusing on compliance and those other things related to the business, it's jumping several steps on the maturity model. I'm sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
No, I was just going to echo the compliance and security perspective around patching, but it leads into managed security as a whole, right? I think a lot of companies, the majority of the ones that we're talking with, they recognize how expensive it is to build their own SOC, to build their 24/7 security compliance, office, right? I mean, that's a huge undertaking. So that's a very big area where I think more companies actually recognize that they probably should consume a managed service around that, because it's cost prohibitive for every single client out there to build their own, right? So I think that's a good example of how more and more companies are open to that, right, from a managed service perspective.
Not only that, just the retention of these rock stars. First of all, can you afford a team of 24/7 rock stars from a security perspective? But then can you retain those folks and deal with their development and those types of things? That's a gigantic issue from a security perspective right now. So again, you transfer that risk and that, the operational aspects of that to an organization that's got dozens of folks focused on that, as opposed to the one or two that you could have.
Yeah. We have I call it a home field advantage because we can have the ability to look at numerous clients. And so we have very talented individuals that we have to work on growing skills, talent, not only acquisition, but retention, and being able to be exposed to not only many different client environments and get, to grow their careers and grow their experience. But then they also have to participate in the innovation we have to do as well. And so it helps us in our retention. But you're right, it's a difficult road to hoe in this marketplace, specifically around security, around cloud, to keep those very talented individuals energized and engaged, because there's always something pretty exciting around the corner, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Brandon, are you running into folks because of the way that cash crunch and those types of things are happening based on current economic turns of things? Are you finding folks that are intrigued with the Capex versus Opex model that managed services allows?
We are, and it's interesting when you talk managed services, a lot of times you are just thinking of a resource, right? And you're thinking, I need a network resource, or I need a server resource, and well, maybe I could just consume a managed service, by going out and finding a partner that can manage my network for me, right? And one of the things that's really interesting now is bundling of managed services with infrastructure, right? Where clients are now really looking to try and consume not only the managed service, but the hardware with it, right? And we're seeing a lot of opportunity where people are interested in understanding more about how can I get storage with the managed service on-prem, all bundled up together. And now for me as the client, I'm solely focused on the outcome, right? How fast is the storage? How much storage do I have? And I just consume it on a monthly basis. And so now I've really changed my position of trying to understand what the manufacturer is, what all the parts and pieces are to it, what's my maintenance, all that kind of stuff just goes by the wayside. And I have a partner that's going to handle all that for me. And they're giving me something that I'm just going to consume now.
No, I like that. I think, in the past, we talked about how things have evolved a lot in this. In the past, you kind of think of managed services like your alarm company, your monitoring company from an alarm perspective, right? I pay these guys a fee every month. I get, somebody calls me if my alarm gets kicked off. But the way that you're talking about it, it's more business consulting, right? It's what's the right technology stack for you? How does it integrate with your current technology stack? What's the instrumentation need to look like? What are the integrations that need to take place? And then how do you want to acquire this or pay for this stuff? It's a lot more involved than that SKU-based service that I'm thinking of.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're seeing not only, it's obvious public cloud is very consumption-based, variable. You can get some reserved and fixed fee components to it. But you can turn it on and turn it off pretty easily. And most clients are looking for a partner to help them manage it because they don't have those type of skill sets. But we're also seeing the technology partners come up with consumption models around their infrastructure, so that it is no longer public in consumption or private in CapEx. There's now hybrid solutions out there where you can actually consume it per the drink. You can consume a complex infrastructure on a Opex type of basis with someone managing it, providing the service levels, like Brandon said. So we're seing more and more traditional technology partners trying to work with clients like us or partners like us to figure out how do we bundle that together to get the direct outcome of not just buying technology and not just buying people, but actually, as Brandon said, the entire service level on a consumption basis.
Well, I think, Phil, just real quick to add to that, I think that model has really just recently been made possible through our partners and vendors, right? A willingness to essentially land hardware on a customer prem, but wrap services around it. And it has a really interesting characteristic, and that is it scales up And in a lot of cases, you can also scale it down, which was never possible with a traditional, Capex purchase or turn it into a lease. It was really a fixed configuration, a fixed capacity, and it's the ability to go up and down, which mirrors what we're doing in the public cloud, right? So it's an interesting model, and in all cases, we see services wrapped around that.
And to add to that, because of that, we're actually seeing clients transform their needs from traditional capacity management, when am I going to run out, to cost optimization and governance.
True.
I look at cost optimization as, I got a bill, how did I spend it? And how do I prevent myself from spending it going forward? And then, but really you try to get to more of a proactive governance of, how do I enable the business to grow, develop new capabilities, develop new apps and new services, while still putting constraints around the business so that your spending doesn't go out of control, and you know where that is. And so it's additive to your traditional capacity management, and having those type of processes and tools and skill sets to analyze the data and walk clients through the recommendations is becoming more and more prevalent, especially in this hybrid and public cloud space.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So as I'm thinking about the technology that we're talking about here, how rigid should somebody expect a managed service to be related to technology? I mean, I know in the past, you expect somebody to kind of come in and go, okay, rip all this stuff out, put this stuff in, and then we'll manage exactly this set. Obviously, it sounds like, based on some of the flexible models with vendors and newer capabilities these days, that folks can leverage the investment that they've already got.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the case. So I think that a set of standards and a sort of modular service offering construct is really important in order to achieve that, right? And it's the ability to buy the device and have a set of standards, and you can go up and you can go down with the service. And I think that's very different from the past, right? In the past, it was very much how many resources to manage the capacity, and we put that on site, or we put that in a remote NOC, and it's very fixed. And today we are much more fluid in what we can do. A lot of that, again, goes to the standard common language, common framework. You're doing the same set of services for multiple customers. Customers are not unique. And I think it's that modular capability that allows that flexibility.
Understood.
Yeah, I would add that we're finding that, yes, a contract no longer has to be rigid. There's got to be fluidity. We see our clients' business requirements change, year to year, sometimes quarter to quarter, right. And you got to have that fluidity. And a lot of clients we talk to, they're stuck in these very rigid type of contracts with a partner, and the cost of change is 2-3x what it would be. And so we are adapting to what our clients are, and we and having regular reviews, not only with the technical and managers, but also the executive leaders, of where's their business going and how do we need to evolve the service with them. Sometimes that could mean changing from a private to a consumption model. Sometimes it's bringing in new capabilities. Sometimes it's changing the delivery model from a shared to more of a dedicated. There's a lot of different levers that we try to pull to keep a fluid engagement, not just on a per device level, but making sure the outcomes match what their business needs.
I think, as I think about the whole process, that partnership that has to happen. And by the way, earlier when I was saying, any technology, I didn't mean just like absolutely any technology, but also, not a whole rip and replace model that, it's got to be exactly this rigid thing. So thanks for clarifying that, Phil, not only on the technology, but on the contract side. But that, where I was kind of driving at is there's this, again, and I want to keep focused on that because I think it's really important. It's not the alarm company service. It is aligned with your business, aligned with the way that you want to consume, aligned with the technology that you either have or want to acquire, those capabilities that you need, the operational excellence that needs to exist, the security, aspects that need to be in place so that you can either be compliant with regulatory requirements or with what the customer's expectations are. It's a lot more than patch management. I think that it's really enlightening to have this conversation with some folks, and I hope we're giving people some ideas. What are some of if you were going to select a managed services organization, what are some of the things that I haven't already called out that you think would be good to look into from that perspective? We can do this round robin.
I'll go first. So I think one of the things that we have found that have really, I'll say, opened to clients' eyes is really going back to the very beginning of this live feed here. It's our ability to share information very quickly back and forth between our teams, right? Most companies are not coming to us and going, hey, I want to completely outsource my IT, right? It's just not very common. So what we're looking for is, how do we supplement, right? How do we come in and provide the services that they're needing, and then work with their teams to make sure that the business as a whole is performing, right? And we're meeting the SLAs of the business. So it's that ability to integrate with systems and processes, change controls, problem management, all of those things. We want to be able to work together, work seamlessly, understand who's responsible for what aspects of the environment, and then that way, again, we still look like one IT organization to the business, right? And so I think our ability to build those integrations and build those processes. A lot of our clients don't have all the processes worked out end to end. So a lot of times we are bringing new capabilities to them. And I think that's one of the big value adds that clients are looking for in a managed partner.
Nice. Stephen?
Yeah, I'll go next. So I think I like your alarm company example there, Jason. And to me, it's what's above that line, right? So we should be really, really good. You should find a partner that the event management and incident response and all that, which is, we used to talk a lot about that. And now we're talking more about things like governance and cost optimization and compliance and other things, right? And so, for me, if I'm looking for a managed services partner, and it truly is a partnership, right, with the business, I would look for those things. You think about cost optimization. If you're doing cost optimization correctly, you may actually be slowing the growth of the environment. You may actually be putting some controls around it to keep it manageable, which for the managed services provider would mean less revenue, right? So you actually have to go in and say, we want to be a partner and help you optimize your business and be in it for the long haul with you, right? So I think, to me, those things are important. And if you really are just checking events and rolling out some monitoring tools and working incidents, that's not really the foundation for a long-term partnership. That's something that's really interchangeable, right? So I always think about the higher value services that are brought, that really have to be brought on a regular and continuous basis, right? It's about the maturity, the cadence, consistency in delivering those high value services.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would, if I was a leader within IT, I would assess my people skills, my processes, my tools from a current state perspective, and go, now, what is that future state? What's that outcome I'm really trying to desire? Is it improving service levels, 24/7? Is it, freeing up resources to focus on innovation rather than operations? Do I need to accelerate my maturity to a level that it isn't today? Do I need to roll out new services and focus less on operations? I would assess that and understand that gap and where the pain points are, and then make a determination, because insourcing or maturing your own operations is a valid solution, and a lot of companies do it and do it very well. But if you start reaching out to, okay, I need a partner to help and Stephen and Brandon both mentioned, a partner to help me along that journey, then I would not only make sure that they address the gaps, but also all the things around it. A managed services is sometimes a very ubiquitous term. Sometimes it means outsourcing. Sometimes it means I'm managing a firewall and that's it. But we're finding managed services means, no, I need a client to help design, implement, migrate, consult, and manage that thing, that environment, that whatever. And being able to leverage or know who the partners are in that journey that helps manage that service. It could be one partner, it could be many partners, but I think understanding that where those components fit in that journey for any type of services is really key to making sure that you're picking the right partner or partners along the way.
Fantastic. Well, guys, it's been a really great conversation. Any final words or guidance that you would have for folks that are out there, either on the journey, or maybe they've engaged managed services in the past, or maybe they're currently with a provider, and how potentially they can augment their capabilities to the sorts that you guys are talking about, or maybe a decision factor they should think about?
I think, Phil, you hit on it. Really, it's determine what outcome you're looking for, right? And where you're trying to take your organization, and don't think of it as just replacing something that exists today with someone else doing it for me. I think that's the old model. I don't think that's where we are today. So I think it really is about business outcomes, and it's about finding a partner that can go on that journey with you.
Perfect.
Yep. Well said.
Yep, I agree. I think it's that decision point of, do you want to innovate or do you want to operate, and where do you want to focus your rare time? We all have rare time on our hands. I've seen numerous studies. Even saw one today about how in this new world of remote workforce and such, we're finding that leaders and businesses are working even more than they did beforehand. I think everyone on this call would raise their hand and say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
It's actually we're actually busier now since this phase than before, and so you need to determine if I have even fewer cycles, where should I focus those cycles? That's a key factor. And then once you have that, then finding out how do I raise the service levels? How do I sometimes lower cost? How do I get my resources looking else, doing the things you need and innovating? Those are all critical success factors, as well as compliance and security. That's where I would focus that outcome on operations versus innovation.
Well said. Well, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Phil, Stephen, Brandon, thank you guys so much. Sorry for my glitch earlier, but a very lively conversation related to managed services, the decision factors related to it, and boiling down to where does an organization want to spend their time, on the innovation side or on the operations side of this, and some really great information. So thank you guys very much. If you would like to see more information related to managed services and some of the other offerings that we talked about, there's lots of collateral available at insightcdct.com. And thanks for joining us on this CDCT Live. Have a good day.